Yo, what's up, guys? What's up? Another day, another thought. Welcome to another edition of the Double Thought Show, where we discuss themes and topics, touching on them from different perspectives. And as you guys know, we try to do it as objective as possible. And the only way to do that, or perhaps it's not the only way, but the most important way to do that is by interchanging our opinions with one another, staying relevant to the topic, trying to understand each other's viewpoint, and by listening to other opinions, of course, we can form better opinions. We can help form ourselves. I'm RJ. I'm here with KR. KR.
Yes. Hello,
Another
everyone.
wild week.
Another wild week. Before we continue, I wanted to add something as well. Challenging ideas, what you said was a great monologue right there. But challenging ideas. That's I think one thing we will be talking about today. Um, but yes, another wild week. Indeed, we had this week the election day week cycle, kind of the closing of all the craziness. I think we talked a couple of times, couple of shows back about some of the people who were cloud chasing, trying to get their cloud up for this week. Some of them have failed horribly,
I was just about to
um,
say.
horribly. Um, you had people who wanted to claim victory, but were not able to claim it, or they were blaming others for their failures, as people always do. N- n- there's no accountability.
No.
If you campaign like an idiot, you should stand your ground and continue being an idiot after losing. But um, yeah, we'll see. There is something coming up. I think Georgia is also will have a redo in December. Warnock and Walker were they didn't reach the 50%, so they have to do another cycle. So there's a lot of money being thrown around to get Herschel, former NFL player, into the position. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Whether we agree or not, that's something else. But it's going to be a very interesting couple of 2 weeks before that they get to elect again in Georgia. But yeah,
yeah.
that's this
Uh,
week. A lot of crazy stuff.
and that means as well, KR, that we can expect more clown shows
That's something you
in the
cannot
coming week.
you can expect that. A lot of crazy stuff indeed. Clowns. I mean, there have been. It's crazy if you think about it. How people blame others for their failures. I mean, politicians sometimes it's a really interesting people to break down. If you break them down, they are very interesting people. No accountability at all. If I win, it's because of me. If I lose, it's because of you.
Definitely. No, man. Yeah, as you said, it was a crazy week. What we're going to talk about today, guys, you see the title of the show. We're going to review Joe Rogan, very interesting Joe Rogan uh, clip
Yep.
in which two people were two people with opposing opinions and stance were argumenting their point of views and were debating. I would say I would use the word debating,
Yep.
but in a very healthy manner. And I think it's in light of everything that's happening these last couple of years, people getting canceled left and right. KR wanted to cancel me last week. We're gonna check a clip. I'm gonna show you guys a clip before we continue. But in light of all the canceling, would you say, or I'll just say cancellation, because I wanted to say another. I wanted to rephrase, use it, or formulate it differently. But let's just keep it
Just watch the clip.
safe. Let's
Let's
just
just
keep it
watch the
safe.
clip.
So yeah, but in light of that, we're going to discuss that topic. But before we continue, let's check out last week's clip. One moment, guys.
Oh, we press it simultaneously.
You
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 press it. You press it.
okay?
You start it up.
Instagram models. You didn't have Instagram models,
Tinder
Tinder,
or
those
whatever
things.
dating apps you have.
You didn't have movies that were telling you what's important. They sold a dream. They sold something that doesn't exist. And
Who is they?
so I would say the companies of I don't know where you go with this question, man.
Hey, my eyebrows went up.
Yo, guys, check.
Like,
Let's. I just want to point you guys to one moment.
oh, you wanna play? Yeah.
Yeah, just one Instagram moment. Models. Because we were having a serious conversation. I was really in my element, and
Yeah, you were talking that. I'll be honest. It was a very great moment, but
Yeah, but it was a good. It was
it
overall. I
was.
would say overall. I would say it was a. I'd say it was a good show.
Yeah, yeah,
But
I do too.
guys, I just wanna see if you guys can notice at what point KR thought, you know what? I'm gonna screw with this guy today.
Dating apps you have.
You didn't have movies that were telling you what's important. They sold a dream. They sold something that doesn't exist. And
Who is they?
so, guys, I want you to look at KR's facial expression. Look at his facial expression the moment I use the word they for the first time.
Dating apps you have.
You didn't have movies that were telling you what's important. They sold a dream. They sold something that doesn't exist. And
Who is they?
guys, evil does exist in this world.
Hey man.
And I can tell you, so I'm just gonna do. We didn't plan this, KR, but I just want to do a quick breakdown. I was still in my mind. So in my mind, I wanted to proceed with my my with the expression of my thought. And I have to admit, the question caught me off guard, but I didn't. It took me a while before I understood that KR wanted to mess with me. And as you can see, I'm going to try. You'll see that I'll try to answer the question, but at one moment, at a certain point, I'm like,
you
wait a
can't
minute, wait a minute. Let's check it out, guys. So I would say the companies of I don't know where you go with this question, man. Yo, guys, that's my colleague. That's my friend right there, man. That's my brother.
Hey, brothers mess with each other, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but it was overall it was a very good show.
Yeah, I
Last
think
week.
we made a couple of great points indeed. Um, we will also post these. This is a short, by the way. We will post it later this week, or maybe later within these 2 weeks. There are a couple of moments in that show that I think we are definitely quote worthy. I think we will also show those share those shorts of those
Yeah.
moments. So guys, keep an eye out on the platform. The click the notification bell, so when we post stuff, you get notified, and you can watch these funny moments. I mean, we have a couple of them in stores from previous shows as well. I mean, they are great moments.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, guys, as usual, we really appreciate each and every one of you who tune in for the live show. We really appreciate your support, the support we've been receiving from each and every single one of you. Not only our subscribers, because we're seeing that our hard work is paying off very, very gradually, very slowly, but we do see progress, and we definitely appreciate your support. We'd
Yes,
like to
thank
thank
you.
everyone as well, everyone that is watching this, or at least is watching the rebroadcast as well. We truly appreciate your support as well. And KR, I don't know about you, but it's very interesting to see, when people react, give their reactions to your videos. It's very interesting to see that people agree, disagree, or perhaps bring a different point of view. Makes you think.
Makes you think it's a double touch show.
Makes you think that we're actually achieving what we want
Achieving
to
what we
achieve
want. Yes.
with our show as well. So definitely,
Yeah.
we truly appreciate each and every
Yeah.
one of you.
It's a thing that's very remarkable. You're right about that. That people sometimes they they comment stuff where you ask yourself like, what is he? Did he even watch the clip?
Yo, I was just about to say.
Sometimes, sometimes it's the opposite. They give great feedback or on the topic and point out things that might be different. A beautiful thing is also, and I'm not saying that um, well, it's a beautiful thing that people try to discuss certain topics within the comments. So basically, challenging each other. Challenging each other's thoughts, and at the end that's the goal of the show, and hopefully at a certain point people will start calling into the show and share their opinions, and we can discuss different topics and share ideas and learn from those ideas as well, because I mean everyone has their own perspective on topics.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
no clean cut perspective. There's always like a asterisk to it.
To everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And as a lawyer, I can confirm what you said, with the exception that no, I'm just kidding.
I was waiting for that one. That's why I kept my mouth shut.
Yo, guys. But yeah, you see the title of the show. We're going to check out a clip and see whether Joe Rogan is the technique that he's using for critiquing the ideas and speech of his guest, and the other way around, are the way it's supposed to take place. So before we continue, guys, please let us know if you can hear us by pressing 1, so we know that you're following us. Put some ones in the chat. The one a struggle stream. KR, I have to say the struggle streaming is also
It's
less, I
improving.
think. Yeah,
It's less. It's less. We are basically improving. The show is going forward. We are making steps,
definitely.
and we are already planning the next moves. Strategists. Bill Belichick of the YouTube game.
Yeah.
I should change my
With
name from KR to Bill Belichick of the YouTube game.
We can, as long as you bring the
And
Cowboys
you're
budget,
Brady.
then we're good. Because
What? What did you say? What
as long
budget?
as you bring, the, so you said you're the Bill Belichick of YouTube. As long as you bring the Dallas Cowboys budget for the for the upgrades we
Hey
need to
man,
make it.
the New England budget is not very far from that one, but they're number two. So
All right,
I-
cool, man.
I'll be Belichick, you'll be Brady. As long as you don't leave the franchise, we're good.
Cool, man. Cool. Hey guys, remember to follow and subscribe as well to our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook pages and platform. KR, we're seeing, because you're the one actually more hands-on with the social media,
Yeah.
at least with Facebook and Instagram. But I think last time I checked, we're seeing growth there as well.
We're seeing some growth. People are liking much more. We are trying new stuff out on social media. We're not as efficient yet. It's a learning process. We want to see what is actually things people want to see on social media, and also posting that. Try to stay relevant to topics we do in that week. So we're trying to create more cohesive way of doing the social media stuff. We don't want to make the page a meme page in a
No.
sense. But try to sometimes we want to post funny stuff as well, related to the topic, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
Not gonna post not gonna post random videos of people uh, hurting themselves
yeah.
on the skateboard or something like that.
Yeah, you leave that for your personal page. So, guys,
Hey man,
before we
don't
proceed
snitch,
as
man.
well,
Don't
you
dry
know,
snitch, man.
we also want to give out the usual disclaimer. Remember, the purpose of the show is for entertainment only. We are not financial or life advisors. For the purpose of the show, we're not legal advisors either. We're not giving legal advice. We're just sharing our thoughts and opinions. For personal advice on a particular aspect of your life, we highly urge you to seek out advice from a professional in the respective fields.
Yes, so we done with the lawyer talk. Let's see, as usual, at the beginning of each show, we have the random thought, and then we also have the random thought at the end. As usual, RJ is the one who's going to share his first random thought. Um, and yeah, tell me, RJ, what do you have in mind? What was on your mind this past week?
You know, KR, as a lawyer, I experience a lot of things. I must say that it's not a dull profession at all. But if you're someone like me that likes to analyze, you can't help but pick up certain patterns. And as you know, the majority of my clients are companies and business owners. And I've seen through the course of my career a difference between male business owners or managers versus female business owners or managers.
Okay.
Now, we will probably most likely do a review of a particular movie in the near future. So I don't want to dive in the definition of what a man and a woman is. But what I will say is this. A majority of my recurring clients are female clients, are female entrepreneurs, business owners. The one and doners are oftentimes male clients. Do you know why? Can you guess why?
Is it because they are more likely to take bigger risks, something like that? Or am I on my way off?
So you think that it's about the risks?
Risk. You ask me why they are one and doners, as in business or as your client?
As clients, so as advisors. So
As
they remain
they don't
clients.
they don't like your advice. That's why.
Yeah. So they remain clients, but they just look for the advice. They just seek out advice, and when they have it, they continue on their own. So they don't continuously call, follow up.
Probably. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well,
You tell me, man. It's.
well, you had it correct. It's about the risk.
Yo, you happy? I thought I was off. Guys, yeah, I really thought I was off. I said that's the first thing I thought is the risk part.
Yeah.
And then you asked me again. I was like,
yeah, you doubted yourself.
Is it the risk? Yeah, I shouldn't doubt myself.
You shouldn't doubt yourself. No, but that's
I told
it.
you guys about certain coins, but
yeah. So
look at you now. Look at you now.
yeah, yeah. So, but it's what you said. It's about the risks, and I'll give you an example of how a male conversation, meeting with a female client would go, as opposed to a male client. the female client, they come in, they want to, I must say, they a majority of times, they are, they want to do the right thing. They want to do it correctly. So they seek advice, ask questions. Oh, there's danger there? Okay, then I'll go left. But if I go left and I find a tree, what do I do then? Okay, I should avoid the tree altogether. And you give the advice, they write it all down, write it all out, and they will go. And as they are taking the steps, they will check in, they will give me a call, or they will send an email. Hey, I'm here in the process, just checking in, or I did what you said, but I encountered something that I didn't expect, etc. And so usually I guide these clients from A to Z. The male clients will meet with me, and they will always, not always, but they oftentimes ask a question that's already, let's say, challenging the system. And it's a question that they know the answer, but they think, everyone thinks they can beat the system.
let's not say who also thought, but let's continue.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Shout out to the previous shows, guys. Guys, go check out our previous shows. Then you'll get that joke. The male client will come with a case that's even more complicated than the female's case. You can't go there because there's fire. And if you manage to walk through the fire, because you can't jump over it, you can't walk all around it, you need to go through the fire. If you manage to get through the fire, you will encounter 3 hungry tigers. These tigers haven't eaten for 2 weeks. They will, as soon as they see you, they will attack you. And you will give 2, 3, 4 more examples or cautionary advices like that. And they will listen. And they will nod their head in agreement. And then they will say, wow, it's a lot of risks. Well, I guess there's only one thing to do. Let's try it out and see what happens. So, moral of the story is that I believe everyone has their own set of skills. Everyone has their own strategy. I know male clients that are successful, male clients that are not successful, female clients that are successful, female clients that are not successful. It's not always about the strategy because it's not a one-size-fits-all, and that's with everything in life. The conclusion that I've reached is that you are most likely to achieve success if you stick to the skills and habits that are natural to you. It's when you want to become someone else that you will feel like someone else. KR, that's my random thought of the day.
Great one. Great one. It's a great one. It's basically you're saying don't play hero ball.
Don't play hero
Don't
ball.
play hero ball. You're not a hero. You're not a hero. You can, I want to say something, but I'm not gonna. I'm not
No.
gonna say it. Not trying.
Patreon.
Patreon. Yeah, we keep
I
seeing
love.
Patreons. We're promoting Patreon. We should get a check for Patreon.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway, uh, yeah. So that's a great thought of the day. Random thought of the day, guys. Please continue liking the video, so the algorithm puts us higher in the recommendations. Also, like the clips through the week. I mean, if you watch the clip, you like it, press on the like button. We are seeing a lot of engagement, and that helps us get the clips and the message we're trying to give to a bigger audience. And that's the goal, to educate people and try to give them a different perspective, like RJ said at the beginning of the show.
yeah. And to educate ourselves as well
Of
with
course, of course, because it's
iron.
interaction.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. Iron.
Iron
So
shards are indeed. So I think we can start with the main topic of today. Is Joe Rogan of the Joe Rogan Experience critiquing ideas and speech correctly? Before we continue on that specific topic, specific video, it's good to show you the different perspective we have in today's culture. There is a big difference between how people used to challenge ideas, how people used to discuss ideas, speech in the past, and how we're doing right now, or even a couple of years ago. Let's say 2008, 2009. It was very different. People were talking crazy on internet, in live as well, in front of you. But these days, you have to be very wary about what you say, and that's why we will open this show about talking about cancel culture in order to lay the transition to how the critiquing is done in Joe's way, to give you the counterbalance and to both sides, both perspective, double thought, double
double thought.
double thought. In order to do this, we will start by looking at a video from a video called "The Truth About Cancel Culture." It's a video that was um, where they are basically interviewing Jordan Peterson. For those who don't know, Peterson is a pretty well known figure these days. Talks a lot about different topics, starting from cultural topics to psychology to human nature. Um, and he's a very interesting guy, to say the least.
Yeah,
Right now, if I go back, he has 5.8 million subscribers. It's very popular, and he's doing
yeah,
tours around the world. I think he was earlier this year he was in the Netherlands as well. It's but he's very interesting. So you want to say something about him, or
no, yeah. So yeah, you mentioned it already. He's a clinical psychologist, and he's very well spoken
yeah,
and very well read, and because of that, he is extremely well in debates, the way he presents himself, the way he debates, the way he basically, when they try to pin him down with comments or with questions, he doesn't fold, he doubles down. He doubles down with statistics, he doubles down with good arguments, and I've never seen, maybe it has happened, I don't know, it probably has, but I don't recall ever seeing a time where Jordan Peterson wasn't able to come on top in a debate.
Yeah. The articulation.
The articulation.
It's a lot of details.
Yeah.
By the way, are you seeing the microphones?
Yeah, man.
I'm just seeing it now. Anyway, let's continue. This is the clip, guys. I'm gonna play it right now.
I was going to ask you if you could describe from a psychological perspective what you think cancel culture actually is and where it stems from.
Well, there's a malevolence aspect to it, which is just the delight that people can take in being destructive. And that's part of the whole constellation of, let's say, antisocial behavior. But there's a more subtle element to it, which is reputation inflation. So the most valuable thing you possess by any stretch of the imagination is your reputation. Mm. And your reputation basically, I wouldn't call it a status marker exactly. It's a productive generosity and competence marker. And so if you have a good reputation, then people can trust you, and they can trust you to engage in reciprocal productive interactions with them. They can trust you to take their interests into account as well as your own, and to play stable, voluntary, desirable, medium to long-term games. And so nothing is more valuable than your reputation. And what that means is that people try to game the reputation system. Mm. And that's what narcissists do, and Machiavellians and psychopaths. They call that the dark triad. There's a lot of research investigation into dark triad personality cluster. And it's a variant of antisocial behavior. And narcissists have the confidence of the competent without the competence. Mm. And so what they do is overclaim their contribution. So if you work with a narcissist, everything that goes wrong is your fault, and everything that goes right is their doing. Mm-hmm. And they will loudly proclaim that, especially.
I was just saying that a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
Regarding the politicians.
Yeah.
It's guys out, but
yeah, but you do see, especially in social media, a lot of people are, I don't know if they can be referred to as narcissists, but they do, let's say social media has caused many people to develop narcissistic tendencies. Mm-hmm. In which it's not about being in the moment anymore, but it's about showing everyone, let's say showing people how happy you are. And when you're mad, you don't protest anymore. You just go online and try to cancel someone. And by doing so, you also come, or at least wish to come across as the white knight who has the courage to combat evil. Or at least that's how they would, that's how they regard it. Yeah.
They perceive it as you're the evil one in that case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll continue with the.
And everything that goes right is their doing. Mm-hmm. And they will loudly proclaim that, especially to their superiors, and denigrate you like mad if you dare to offer a counter proposition. And narcissists It's a camouflage strategy in some sense. The narcissist passes him or herself off as a competent and confident person. And one way of elevating your reputation is to claim unearned moral virtue. And so a huge part of what motivates the woke nonsense that insists that the mere reflexive act of feeling sorry for someone constitutes a moral virtue is an attempt to claim a reputational status without having to do any of the work whatsoever to be a genuinely good person. To be a good person, you have to be productive. That's hard. And you have to be generous. And that's hard. And you have to play medium to long-term, stable, voluntary games with other people. And that's hard. That's nothing but diligent, upward-oriented work over years puts you in that position. Whereas if you make a unwarranted moral claim, I'm compassionate, let's say, then instantly you're with the angels. And it also allows you to derogate those who you regard as predatory, let's say, and also enhance your moral virtue. Not only am I compassionate, and that makes me good, but and I'm on the side of the angels, but there are the snakes, and they're not in me at all, because I'm saintly in all regards. And so the snakes have to be somewhere. We all suffer from the problem of where to put Satan, that's for sure. And the most convenient place to put him is in someone else. And it's even more convenient if that redounds to your benefit and plays to your political aspirations.
I know a few.
That's
deep.
That's very deep. It reminds me of something I read a while back. I think it was from the author Ken Wilber. Do you know him by any chance?
Book?
Ken Wilber. Well, he has a lot of books, but he has a lot of books. He basically has an integral theory. And his books are, in his books, he tries to seek out. So the way I perceive it is he tries to understand the laws of the universe by taking different sciences, so psychology, sociology, physiology, etc., physics, and so from all aspects, theology, and tries to reach, and also various philosophies, to try to reach and understand basic principles of the universe. And he said, what he mentioned in one of his books is that, and one of his books, I think the book is called Integral Theory, I believe.
Might have heard of it. I haven't read it, but
check it out. But what he mentions in his book is that the people in the past who worshiped various gods basically projected different aspects of themselves to the outside world. So the god of love, the god of war, the god of water, the god of the underworld. These are all aspects of people whom they projected into gods, and then they worship the gods. So
you worship yourself.
Well, I don't know if it's worshiping yourself, but it's basically the way they did it. The god of rain, god of thunder. And what Jordan Peterson is saying now is more or less the same. Many people do not understand that in them they have good and bad. And when you know you have good and bad traits, what you will do is, and you're conscious of them, you can have control over them and try to use both for good, or at least in the best way as possible. But what I realized from a lot of people who claim that they are woke is what Peterson alluded to. They deny the fact that they have bad in them, and that's basically what he's saying. They project the bad into someone else, and then he words it in a very poetic way. They stand on the side of the angels. So
it's a great quote, man.
it's amazing. It's an amazing quote. But they stand on the side of the angels, and they can tell you, and they will pass out judgment. You're bad because of this. You're bad because of that. You're bad because you don't care. But perhaps that person who doesn't care about a certain situation, or it doesn't see things the way you see it, does more for people in need than you do. And what I've noticed a lot of times, that's the case as well. Woke people oftentimes they talk a lot. They like posting shocking quotes, posts on social media to shock you, or to trigger you, or to try to trigger you. But in reality,
themselves.
Boast about themselves, of how good they are. But if you ask me how often they will sacrifice a day in their weekend to go help out people who are in need, my answer is that in my experience, it doesn't happen as often as the ones that actually go out
to work
things and go to work, as Jordan.
That's what Jordan is also saying. They do the work.
Yeah.
They don't do the work. They just project. So
they talk the talk.
They talk the talk, yeah. Let's continue.
A few persons like that, and a lot of them are very active on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Twitter doesn't bring out the best in people, likely including me.
So you say this is a more feminine?
It's a
You're on mute, man.
I said he was banned for a while on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken.
Was he?
Yeah, he was for a while.
I'm not surprised.
A couple of months ago, for not having, I think, not the right thoughts. Let's put it this way. I think he said something and
he committed a thought crime.
Thought crime.
Shout out to George Orwell. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Feminine style of antisocially, including
on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Twitter doesn't bring out the best in people, likely including me.
So you say this is a more feminine?
It's a feminine style of antisocial behavior. So
cancel culture.
Yeah. Well, there's two forms of antisocial behavior. There's a male form and a female form,
right?
Or a masculine form. That's a better way of thinking about it, and a feminine form, because men can play the feminine ASP game, antisocial personality, and men can play, or females can play the male game. Male antisocial types they tend to be physically violent,
right?
And that's evident at the age of 2 already. So there's a subset of 2-year-olds who are already criminals in the making, let's say. They bite, kick, hit, and steal if they're put among other 2-year-olds. Most of them are socialized out of it by the age of 4, vast majority, but some aren't, and they tend to be outcasts from then on, because 4-year-olds don't like 4-year-old aggressive 2-year-olds. They won't play with them, and then they get isolated, and then they become bullies and juvenile delinquents, and it's a bad pathway. It's very stable too. It's very sad. It's very sad, actually. But the male pattern is violent, and we don't like violent criminals, and those are the people who tend to be locked up. And a disproportionate number of people, I think it's 95% in prisons, are male, and they're almost all violent. We're much harder on petty violent criminals than we are on like the kinds of white-collar criminals who steal the pensions of like 60,000 people.
Right.
And that's not obvious that that's a wise distinction. But being mugged is no fun. So you can understand why that's so stringently controlled. Female violent aggression doesn't work very well.
No.
First of all, girls tend not to fight physically with one another, and certainly girls can't fight. Girls can fight with boys because there's not much difference between girls and boys, say before puberty in terms of physical strength. But once puberty hits, women can't compete in the physical aggression domain, and they're not inclined to either, because they could use guns and knives, but they tend not to. But women have their own.
You're on mute again.
I didn't even mute myself. Anyway, I don't know. The exception, I think it's he pointed it out that women can use violence, but they don't, even though they can use knives, guns. So he's very detailed about his explanation of this part.
Yeah.
Now I see why it keeps getting muted.
Yeah.
I understand now. Yeah.
Okay,
Now I understand. Yes, let's continue.
Underground means of stealing, and they steal reputation, and they're very good at it. And it's very many women and many other men as well who use this pattern of derogation and reputation enhancement.
And is this a scientific fact?
Yes, absolutely. This is a well-developed psychiatric literature stemming back decades.
Right.
You know, I've talked about this publicly several times, and the journalists I talk to are always stunned that how could I possibly propose such a thing? It's like, well, there's a 50-year literature on it. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah. And it's reputation savaging and derogation. Mean girls, you can't play with us. You can't sit with us. No, and that's simultaneously a self-elevation and also a derogation of the other. It's very effective.
Want to say something?
I just laughed because of the analogy he just used. There's actually, it's clear. It's very clear. It's like we don't. How did Chris Rock had a bit about it? I think he said, we like you, Karen, but you're just not a Kappa. So, something to that extent. I'm butchering it, but it's like, yeah, you can continue.
Effective and very pernicious and extremely difficult to control. Like, what do you do about it? If you're a girl and you're isolated and shamed in that way, what can you do? You can't really use recourse to authority, because if you go tell a teacher, let's say you're being picked on in junior high, then you're just laughed at because you can't handle your own battles, and you can't bring it to a physical, to the point of physical altercation. You can if you're a man, and that happens very rapidly with men, and which is why it almost never happens. It happens almost immediately with men. It's like, what did you say? Do you want to say that again? And any man worth his salt knows how to play that game. And so generally among men, this just doesn't happen. No. Now on Twitter,
those two examples are really stuff you see.
Yeah.
You have either seen it live or have done it yourself.
Yeah, loud and clear.
As a male and a female. Who hasn't? What did you say? Huh? And you gotta get closer, of course. Like,
yo, KaiR. I remember when I was 12. I was 12, getting ready to go to high school. So I'm in my last year of primary school.
Yeah.
And there was this girl that I really liked. So I liked her, you know?
Yeah.
And my friends and other classmates, they knew it. And of course, as a 12-year-old, you're shy. You're 12. So they started teasing me like a couple of days. And I got ashamed. I'm like, no, I don't like her. You don't know anything. But they kept on teasing because, of course, they saw that it was working.
Yeah.
I didn't have the knowledge you shared in your random thought of the day a couple of weeks back about talking back and
Oh yeah.
having talking back and being witty enough to get out of uncomfortable situations. So I got mad. I went home and I was so embarrassed. And I remember, and I'll never forget this. I came when I was in the car ride going to school that morning. So the next morning, I thought to myself, the first person who makes a joke, I will punch. I've never fought in my life before that moment. So I got to school and a friend of mine came and he started teasing me immediately. Now, what do you have to know about this friend? He was taller than I was. He was more athletic than I was. And perhaps the most important thing, he was the national karate champion
Oh man.
of his age group. So I went and he teased me and I was so mad. He turned around. I remember I balled my fist.
Kang.
I didn't throw a straight punch. I didn't throw a straight punch. I did something. It came like from I don't know what I did. It's like I was swimming, man.
Haymakers.
I hit him between his shoulder blades.
Oh.
Didn't do any damage.
Oh man.
He turned around.
Chokehold, man. What the heck?
I didn't know
You're
jujitsu
12,
by
you're
then. I
12,
didn't know
you're 12.
jujitsu.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't know jujitsu by
I
then.
guess that's why you're doing it now, right?
I'm doing it for a reason. No, my. So I was because my parents, they made sure we played sports, but my mom didn't want us to do martial arts. So it
She
needs
didn't
to
want
be.
you to become a juvenile delinquent.
I don't know what. No, I don't know what the reason was, but
I'm just
but
kidding.
but or I think she didn't want to. I don't recall if I've ever had interest. I need to ask her, so I need to check that with her. But this guy, so I balled up my fist.
You could have hit him in the back of the head.
And I could feel the vein in my head. I could feel it. And at that time, I was watching a lot of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, no.
So I thought the more mad I got, the harder the punch would land.
Well, it should be. Technically, it could, but I guess you didn't aim well.
Technically, it could. Factually, it didn't. This
You got a
dude,
wheelchair to the side of your head?
thank God I didn't, because he could have. He turned around. I could see his veins popping. And before I knew it,
You were running.
I was running. I was punched right between my eyes.
Damn. Yo.
Right here, right between my eyes, right here, man, right between my eyes.
Man.
And I remember what did I do? I did the waddle. The waddle. I
you started doing you started doing you started doing the AB dance. Oh man.
Yo,
Oh.
I was all over the place. I could see stars all around me. And just shortly after that, the bell went and the class started. So,
You didn't cry though. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
I did.
Ah.
Did. And the teacher asked me what was wrong, and I didn't tell her, of course, because I had too much
Stung by
pride.
a bee.
But at that moment, KR, I learned that if you step out of line, especially, you don't even have to step out of line. If another dude thinks that you stepped out of line, you should be ready to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You should be ready for confrontation. And I think men have that more than women. That's why it doesn't happen, as Jordan Peterson said, because you know that there's always a threat
Consequence.
by breaking out.
Consequence. It's a consequence to whatever you say.
Yeah,
Usually, men don't disrespect each other right to their face unless they are drunk
unless they're drunk. Yeah, or
or they are crazy.
or they're
Or
carrying
you
something.
have the again?
Yeah, or they're carrying something. You know.
Yeah, they carry a chicken, a two-piece.
Yeah. no, but
Act right. Yeah,
you
they carry
always
the act
show
right.
respect.
You
You
always
always
try to avoid that because
yeah.
you never know, right? I think one thing you've also learned from that moment, and maybe unconsciously, is that you have to know your opponent, and you have to um, let's put it. Don't put yourself in a place where you cannot fight yourself out of. Literally, that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was. I mean, he was karate champion, and you learned not to punch karate champions in the future. At that moment,
No to
you thought,
self.
no to self. Don't punch, or if you do, clock him in the face.
Yeah.
Don't clock him between the
Yeah.
shoulder blades.
And I
Anyway,
think that's what's missing on Twitter and on
on social
other
media, there
social
is no
media.
there is no consequence. You
You
can
don't
say
get
whatever
punched.
you want to.
Yeah.
You will not get. Well, let's put it this way. People are not crazy enough to find your IP and punch you. Some of them are, because I know
Some-
in the past that people have drove to people's house and did deleted someone over a tweet. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but in general, there is no consequence.
It's an
And I think
exception. It's not the rule. Yeah.
it's an exception, guys. It's not the rule. But there is no consequence. So people say do whatever they want to.
Yeah.
Online, that's a different story. Among men, this just any man worth his salt knows how to play that game. And so generally among men, this just doesn't happen.
No.
Now on Twitter, online, that's a different story because that pathway of reputation denigration beckons, and social media facilitates its distribution in an appalling manner. And it might be the death of all of us that. So the incentive structures on the social media platforms, the social communication platforms, are wrong because the antisocial, psychopathic, Machiavellian, narcissistic types who use reputation derogation are privileged in their communications and not punished. And that's a very bad idea.
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. I think it details very clearly what the origin and how it's the cancel culture basically works. I think. and what is the origin and the consequence of that.
Yes, I believe so too.
In general, I do think, but maybe you look at this differently. This has led to this type of, they call it cancel culture, the cancellation of people has led to less communication between parties, opposite sides, less interaction, communication interaction, the exchanging of ideas,
Less tolerance.
less tolerance. Also, not a lot of correction of wrong ideas. Because what you will get is that try to pin someone down as evil. You're not really correcting them. You're basically vilifying them.
Vilifying. Yeah.
And they'll chances are they'll embrace that role instead of actually changing their ideas.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to transition to the next part, which is the cancellation of the well-known NBA player Kyrie Irving. In the last week or so, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there have been a lot of commotion about his tweets relating to a video that, well, related to a lot of stuff, but mainly towards the video he had posted, he had shared via, again, Twitter. Um, and after that, um, after those tweets, Kyrie basically apologized for what his tweet or the, well, he was technically apologizing for tweeting the video, I think, but it wasn't enough for certain brands like Nike, and they canceled him. Or, well, canceled his, well, they didn't cancel him, literally. They canceled his shoe who was going to be released in a couple of months. And they suspended basically suspended the partnership for the time being. The shoe deal was worth about 11 million, as a lot of media outlets have mentioned. And Kyrie has also been suspended by the team he plays with, the Brooklyn Nets. It's a suspension without pay, so I don't know. The season had just started, RJ,
Yeah, it started. Yeah. Yeah. A month ago.
a month ago. So in this contract year, was basically supposed to earn $36.9 million, and he will not get paid for those games. It was 5 games, so which he will not be paid for. I think during you had your thought of the day last week, where you pointed out a different angle towards this topic, where you basically said it's let's try to learn from this as a community. I think we can also learn on other aspects on how to tackle ideas that, if you think someone's idea is not correct, you gotta ask yourself whether cancellation is actually the solution to the problem. Sometimes the best way to combat ideas, whether they are stupid or not, is by discussing them and challenging the person who's voicing them. You might find out some things that they agree with, disagree with, but you basically challenge them to think. Because right now, what you get is the opposite. And it's not about whether the video is right or wrong, it's about the concept of challenging ideas, I think. You basically canceled him, or try to cancel him, or try to make him, I don't know what they're trying to do at this point, because it's going further and further. But what you get now is that, first of all, there is no exchange of ideas, there is no interaction, no communication, no challenging of ideas. I don't think Kyrie has changed his mind actually from what he has posted. He's just, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong about this.
Yeah, I don't think that. So I don't necessarily. I haven't watched the documentary. I'm not going to watch it either. But, or I don't know. I don't think I'm going to watch it. Never say never,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
I do know that it's not something. It's not a documentary that's banned. It's on a platform. I don't know if it's on.
It's on Amazon, man.
It's on Amazon
Prime.
Amazon Prime, so it's not something that's banned. I think that when he put out that tweet, he did not expect the repercussions that he's gotten. I don't know, knowing what he knows now, whether he'll ever do it again. I don't think, because I mean, I've been following the NBA for a long time now, and Kyrie Irving is someone he gives back to the community a lot. I don't think I don't think, but I'm not gonna put my hand in fire for him. I don't know him, but I don't think that he has hate. When he put it out, I don't think he had hate. But Kyrie's been known to put out
controversial,
very controversial
statements.
Content and statements. Yeah. Even though I might not agree with what he said or what he did, I do believe that he has the right to express himself. Now, people say that the bar is higher for Kyrie because he has major influence on a lot of people, a lot of kids, a lot of people who look up to him, etc. There's something to be said about that argument as well. However, when I look at what they're doing with him now, so all the things, they had a list of things that he had to do to get back on the good graces of the team. Let me see if I can find it on. Do you have it by any chance?
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
Can look it up real quick.
Yeah, this is important. Yeah, the list of tasks that he needs to comply with.
30 push-ups.
No.
Oh, okay.
So the Brooklyn Nets. Let's see if I can share my
I
screen.
have it.
You have
Okay.
it? Yeah. Okay. Can you
I think
share
it's
it?
this one, right?
Yeah. So he needs to apologize and condemn the film he promoted. He needs to make a 500K donation to anti-hate causes. He needs to complete sensitivity training. He needs to complete anti-Semitism training. He needs to meet with the Anti-Defamation League and Jewish leaders. He needs to meet with team owner Joe Tsai to demonstrate an understanding of the situation.
It's Jota.
Do you know him? I don't know Joe Tsai.
I didn't know. Oh shoot! I thought Brooklyn Nets was owned by that Russian guy. I guess not anymore. That has
But-
nothing to do with this, but continue.
Yeah. So I believe that it's a lot for his tweet. I believe it's, and aside from this list, you have the 5-game suspension now. So it's, I believe, not proportionate at all. And it does make you question the freedom of expression and freedom of thought principles. Or at least it challenges those principles.
I might disagree on that, but I think I understand what you're trying to say.
Okay.
There's freedom of thought, and then there's freedom of no consequences. I think it challenges the no consequences part. He still had the freedom to say whatever he had to say. Just he had consequences to it.
Yeah, that's the asterisk.
Yeah.
That's the asterisk. Yeah. So you have the freedom, but is it freedom if there are consequences?
Nothing is free in life, right?
That's true. Except
Everything
for the
has
sun,
a consequence.
they say.
If you, unless the sun and the air you breathe and the moon at the night. But everything you do, if you choose today not to go to the gym, you choose it every day. You have the freedom to choose it. There's a freedom, but there are consequences, and it's also with speech as well. But I think the most important, well, for me at least, and maybe you look at this differently, is the fact that, of course, the requirements are a bit off. I think it's a bit off. I think he did the first two already, right?
He did the first two, if I'm not mistaken. So it came out that they agreed to that he would pay 500K. So he would donate 500K to anti-hate causes. That the Brooklyn Nets would match that amount as well. So in total, they would donate 1 million. And
What anti-hate causes? I want to see what this is very general, but aside from the topic, it's very general. Anti-hate.
well, if you leave it up to BLM to decide,
That's what I want to know. I don't want to. I don't want to name organizations. But
well, I'll do it for you, man. If you want, if you let BLM decide, then we all know where it will go to. Go check out our Black Lives Matter show, man. That's where we guys go check it out. That's where we discuss that's where we analyze basically the spending pattern of the Black Lives Matter organizations, not the movement, but the organizations.
Not the movement. Yeah. So I think so like I said, I'm pro combating ideas. The way to tackle this actually by challenging the guy, because I think in general, Kyrie sometimes post stuff. You gotta ask yourself, dude, are you totally here, or are you are you someplace else?
Yeah.
Challenge his ideas rather than vilifying him, making him the villain, because it's the same thing. It's canceling.
Yeah.
What you get now is that people, you make him a hero, and people will listen. Not instead of. So this works the other way around. Instead of people actually, and that's why I think it's not been banned from that platform yet. Instead of people challenging that idea and basically showing him, okay, this is not correct because of this, and you challenge, you discuss that idea and what he thinks is right, you get a healthy conversation, get a healthy exchange of ideas. What you now get instead of that is that you basically pinned him down. He's apologizing just to apologize, and that's why I think also they are extra parts to that list, because they know he's gonna apologize to basically probably manage the setback in a sense. And what you also get is people will now turn on that video and see what is this actually about.
Yeah.
And you still haven't challenged the idea. So the idea spreads itself like wildfire. I'm not going to say like wildfire, but it will spread itself. People will watch the video. Amazon, rightfully so, as a organization, is not going to pull it down.
Of course not.
Hey, this is the first time it's hot. It's first time it's hot. You gotta the frying pan is hot. You gotta cook it while it's there. And then what you get now is that he's a hero, maybe for the wrong reasons, not even the right reasons. He's now a hero for certain people, and the ideas have started spreading.
Yeah.
And you haven't challenged it, so you're even further from home. But you want to say something?
Yeah, and that's also the danger of censoring speech.
Yeah.
So I do think that I do believe that there are certain things that you cannot. I do believe that there are certain things that. Now I'm even doubting what I'm about to say. But I'm going to say it anyways. I'm doubting it. So as I'm.
Put your asterisk to it. I don't know what kind of asterisk you want to put to it. But...
Yeah. So as I'm talking, I'm thinking, but this is what I want to say. I do think that you can't say everything you want. There should be consequences in certain situations. But so I majored in human rights law, international law, human rights law, before I became a lawyer. And basically, one of the first things we learned was that you have freedoms but in almost every constitution of a country, so every constitution of countries and or laws of countries, you have the right to limit these freedoms, but the limitation should always be proportionate to the goal you want to achieve. So it's always a question of proportionality. So to walk around and say you can say whatever you want, it's simply not correct. It's not right. That's not how things work. You can limit freedoms, but there are you should they should be the measure should be proportionate to the goals you want to achieve. I would argue that, so I'm not going to discuss whether it was or was not anti-Semitic. I'm not going to talk, so the comment of, or at least the intention of the intention of Kyrie. I don't think he's anti-Semitic, but he has a history of posting things like flat earth theory, things that you cannot stand behind. But I'm just saying this. Let's say for the record that let's say to avoid argument that it is anti-Semitic. Even if that is the case, I don't think the measures taken against him are proportionate. And I don't know if that's the intention, but people, as you mentioned, I think, let's say, first of all, I think more people have watched the movie now or are going to watch the movie now than the amount of people that would have watched it if no reporter had mentioned anything about it. So they made the movie more popular. The ideas will spread. But second of all, history repeats itself. And what you see throughout history is that every time you try to suppress something, it will come back and bite you in the butt. You cannot suppress thoughts. You should, as you said, discuss the thoughts. Challenge the thoughts. But if you try to suppress it, there will come a point in time that, you risk that an eruption will take place. And that can be on a small scale, on an individual scale, a micro scale, but it can also happen, let's say, in extreme cases, in civil wars, etc. I don't think it will go that far.
I don't know. What kind of army are you talking about?
I don't know. Army of the Pharaohs. I don't know. They'll rap about it.
I want to say something, but I'm not going to say it. Or I want to say army of something else, but
no. So I don't think it will go that far, and I hope it doesn't go that far. It shouldn't go that far. But I mean, it's just something to think about.
Yeah.
It's important to discuss and challenge opinions of others.
Since we're talking about challenging opinions, we think we can transition right away to the video not the video, the discussion challenging of ideas that's being done in the Joe Rogan show. I'm going to start with, I'm gonna play the first part first, and then I'm going to discuss who the people are who are doing this discussion.
Can't hear it.
I know, my bad. Trying to do it correctly. You should hear it now.
Certain thing.
Yeah? Okay.
The Joe Rogan experience.
I think of marriage is a certain thing, which is the context for procreation, for the building of the nuclear family.
What about people that get married that don't have kids? Are you?
So I'm stopping it here, right here, so I can introduce the host, which is Joe Rogan. Most people know Joe Rogan by now. Formerly known early 2000, he was basically known for the Fear Factor. That's a very long time ago.
Yeah.
But right now he's mainly known as one of the faces of the UFC. He has his own podcast, which is a very popular podcast, to say the least. And what Joe Rogan always does is he brings people to his podcast and discuss ideas. He discusses ideas from people throughout the spectrum. And the previous person you saw talking was Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is considered, or he is a what they call a right-wing political commentator. He's also a content creator, has a podcast, The Matt Walsh Show. Is a columnist at the Daily Wire. Authored a couple of books. And also starred in one of the most remarkable let's call it documentaries they are out there right now. He basically they basically created the documentary that's called "What is a Woman?" And before we dive into the Joe Rogan part, I want to show you guys a little bit so you understand what kind of. So he's already right wing, so he's a bit conservative, but I think this is a very good trailer to show you guys of the documentary he was part of. Just a couple of seconds. I'm going to show you just the beginning, and I think RJ already alluded to it. We will do a full review of this documentary. Because it's a very interesting topic to talk about. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
What is a woman? Can you tell me that? Oh, you're at the Women's March. You must have some idea. Please, if one person could tell me what a woman is.
You are not here for women. We ask you to leave.
What is that? I'm a husband. I'm a father I host a talk show. I give speeches. I write books. I like to make sense of things. A woman is not anything in particular.
There is not one particular thing.
It could be many things to many people.
Some women have penises, right? Some men have vaginas.
I like scented candles. I've watched Sex and the City.
Yeah,
How do I know if I'm a woman?
that's a great question.
You're not a scientist. You're not a gender studies major.
No,
How do you know that you're a man?
I guess because I got a dick.
Can a man become a woman?
I'm not a woman, so I can't really answer that.
Women only know what women are.
Are you a cat?
No.
Can you tell me what a cat is? You want to tell us what a woman is?
I'm a biological woman that medically transitioned to appear like a male. I will never be a man.
And so they go on the internet and they're told that all of their problems will be solved if they become a man.
So you worry that there could be a sort of social contagion element of this?
A teeny tiny bit, maybe.
It got me at 42. Your child doesn't have a chance.
And you're affirming it with hormones that have never been used in this way.
Puberty blockers, which are completely reversible.
Completely reversible.
One of the drugs used is Lupron, right? Which has actually been used to chemically castrate sex offenders.
You know what? I'm not sure that we should continue with this interview.
You don't want to talk about the drugs that you give to kids, or?
How can they be
So this is the. It's very interesting topic.
It's going to be an interesting review.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be an interesting review. So you guys understand what he's about, and he's a right-wing, conservative guy, and basically he will, like I said, he joined the Joe Rogan Experience to talk about thoughts. He also talked about this for a part, his documentary. And they also talked about gay marriage or marriage in general. And we will continue now with the video.
Are you opposed to that? What if they get married, they decide, you know what, we don't need kids, I'm going to get fit?
Let me go back.
There's the
experience.
I think of marriage is a certain thing, which is the context for procreation, for the building of the nuclear family.
What about people that get married that don't have kids? Are you opposed to that? What if they get married, they decide, you know what, we don't need kids, I'm going to get fixed. You get your tubes tied, let's travel the world.
Well, what do you mean am I opposed to it? I mean, I think that every married couple should be open to life.
But what if they don't want to? Are you opposed to them being married? If marriage is only for procreation and to bond a family together, what about people that are deeply in love that never want to have children?
I don't think it's not only procreation, but that is one of the fundamental definitional aspects of it. Of course, there's more to marriage just than that.
And what about people that are infertile? They fall in love and they realize that they can have babies. They don't really necessarily want to adopt. Is that okay for them to be married? Because then you're, by definition, marriage falls into a completely different thing, because then it's a bond of love. It's a union of love.
Sure. I mean, that doesn't change the nature of marriage, though. It's a little bit like I say that what's the definition of a woman? Well, a woman is someone who by her nature can conceive children in her womb and bear children. And then the response is always, well, what about women who are infertile? Does that destroy your definition of woman? And it doesn't, because it's still a woman's nature to bear children. Not every woman will, and there will be disease and infertility and old age and all these things that will preclude that. But it's still of her nature to do so. And I would say the same thing for marriage. I mean, it is natural in a marriage for procreation to occur. It's not always going to happen in reality, though, but that's still one of the natural functions of marriage. And married couples who can't conceive children, there are other ways to be parents, like adoption, for example.
If they want to. Right. Sure. But if people want to be married and don't want to ever have children, are you opposed to them being married?
I wouldn't advocate a law that would prevent it.
But would it change the definition of what their marriage is to you, because they don't want to have a family? They just want to have a loving bond?
Yeah. I just want to point out, so actually from the start, Joe Rogan made it very clear that he didn't agree with his point of view, in the sense that he asked the question immediately. As soon as he said, I believe that it's about marriage and having children, or marriage is about procreation, Joe Rogan immediately challenged it. He did not challenge it to And I must add, he challenged it directly as well. You know, sometimes people beat around the bush, but he's asking straight questions.
Yep.
And
examples.
Yeah.
What if this? What if that? I don't know if he actually. So this is, it's like a gray zone, right?
Okay.
Disagreeing and agreeing. Sometimes you challenge people just to challenge to see how far you can go, what their thoughts are behind the statement they say. I think he disagrees with him fundamentally, but that's one thing I do myself as well. A lot of times I just challenge people to see what is behind that thought.
Yeah.
Is there really, I think this is the one of the business rules when you're consulting and solving problems. If you ask 5 times why, you will get to the root problem. You keep asking why, you keep asking and see what is behind that statement. I think he fundamentally disagrees with him, but sometimes you got to ask why to see how far did they really think about what they are saying, because a lot of people say a lot of stuff and they don't really have thought about the counter arguments they will get to basically, because you can say anything you want. I'll be honest, you can say anything you want. That doesn't mean that the thought you have is actually correct. That's why you have peer challenge, peer review. Yeah. You might be writing some malarkey. You might be saying some malarkey. It's basically peer reviewing the idea.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. But at least
I wasn't trying to be right, by the way. I think you're right, but just
no,
an asterisk to it.
Yeah. So what I'm saying with I think you're right is that because I said he made it clear. He made it immediately clear that he did not agree with him. But he did not tell him you're wrong. He asked questions.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant with asking questions to see how strong, so how well have you thought this through? Yeah.
It sounds like I'll be honest. I don't really disagree or agree. I haven't even ever thought about this the way he thinks about it. I would have to let it sink in. But I would like to know what made him think this thought, because it's a wild statement if you think about it.
You think it's a wild statement?
Well, it's not really wild. It's a statement which you can ask questions about, like, dude, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
If he's not saying the goal of marriage is, it's interesting. It's an interesting statement. Let's at least it's an interesting statement. Maybe wild. Maybe I was wilding out a bit. Maybe I was. But let's continue.
I think this will be a couple that is rejecting one of the fundamental aspects of marriage, and that they should be open to life. I would hope that in the future they would be, but
isn't that just a personal choice? I mean, you can have a very fulfilling life if you just follow your pursuits and your dreams and your interests, and you find someone that shares those interests with you and you share time together. It's very fulfilling and loving.
Yeah, it's a personal choice, and that I'm not advocating for like a law that says that you if you're married you have to have X number of kids.
But then why are you opposed to 2 gay people doing that?
Well, because again, it's not about choice. It's about what this institution, marriage is an institution, and what is it, and what purpose does it serve? And I do not agree with tearing down or changing this definition, especially because the people who have changed the definition haven't come up with a new one. So they say, well, that's not what marriage is. So for thousands of years, we said marriage is the procreative union. And then we had the other side that came along and said, well, it's not that. Okay, well then like, what is it exactly? And I know you said, well, it's people who love each other. Two people love each other. Well, but then why two people? Why do they have to love each other? All these kinds of questions. You get into what if they're in the same family? What if brothers and sisters want to marry? And I know every time that comes up, the advocates for gay marriage will say, well, that's a slippery slope argument. That's a fallacious, but it's actually not. It's like we're trying to get to what do you even think this institution is now, since you've rejected out what we were saying it was. And I've never found a compelling definition.
Yeah. I don't know what you or how you interpret it, but what I think he's saying here is that he thinks that marriage is something. So I think his stance is that marriage is something fixed, and that people throughout the years have made it relative. So he thinks it's absolute. Marriage is only one thing, and Joe Rogan is saying no, but everyone might interpret it differently. And he's saying, yeah, but if you make it, if it's not obsolete, it's relative. Everyone can decide for themselves what the definition of marriage is. Then what's the point of having something called marriage? So it's not necessary. I don't know if you understand what I want to say.
I'll be honest, I was typing something else, but can you summarize it in one sentence?
So I think Joe Rogan is speaking from a relative point of view. He's saying that everyone can determine for themselves what marriage is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's stating that marriage is absolute. So marriage is what it is. There's only one thing that is marriage.
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
what
either, yeah. And I think that's the discussion that's being, that they're having right now.
And also, if you want, I think that's the last part he added to it is, if you want to change what it actually means, please tell me what it actually is.
Yeah. Thereby trying to make it something absolute as well. So it's like, if this is called a remote, then it's called a remote. And what does a remote do? It controls something. If you want to say that a remote doesn't necessarily need to control something, then what does it do? And if you can tell me what it does and what it is, what's the point of having something called a remote if everyone can determine for themselves what it is? So it's basically the same, in line with what what his documentary seems to be about.
Yeah. Let's continue.
And any definition offered, it's like, well, what's even the point then? Why do we even need this now?
Basically, what you just finished up.
Yeah.
With.
I just don't see how a gay marriage in any way damages a straight marriage. I don't see it at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. It just seems to me that people want to be look, if you wanted to look at logic, especially in our modern society, which is pretty fucked when it comes to relationships, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% of all marriages end in divorce anyway. They don't make it. I don't know if anything would damage marriage and damage the institution of marriage is the option of divorce. I don't think gay people getting married in any way, shape, or form changes a bond that you have with your wife. It's just called marriage. It's a human invented thing. If we decide that gay people can get married too, I just don't see how it damages anything. I don't think it tears down the definition of marriage in any way. It just opens up the possibility that people who are gay won't be discriminated against.
There you go again. The personal aspect of the word marriage, the concept of marriage.
Yep.
So if marriage is, and I understand Joe Rogan's point of view as well, if marriage is an expression of love, for example, or of commitment, then why shouldn't gay people be able to marry each other as well, is what Joe Rogan is saying. And he's saying no, but if it's just an expression and it has nothing to do with what he believes should be the meaning, which is primarily
to create a family
for
with
procreation,
kids,
then what's the point? So then they're having two discussions.
It's totally, they're talking about totally different things.
But that's a conversation.
That's a conversation
when you have two opposing point of views and they are so.
You have to align first.
Yeah. So you need to, first of all, and that's what I've learned, KaiR, first of all, we need to, before we, especially if we're going to talk about something that's very controversial or very ticklish or something that's going to be very complex, then we should establish some ground rules. What are we talking about?
I'm laughing because I do agree with you. That's how you win arguments as well. But okay, let's continue.
Yeah, win arguments, but also understand. So if when I say, for example, a man, I'm thinking of a biological man, irrespective of whether or not he transformed so he underwent surgery to appear as a woman. Or, and the other person thinks, or perhaps you think, when you say a man, you think either a biological man or someone who was a biological woman but then turned into a man. Then if we say man, we're talking about two different things.
Yep.
So we're going to talk an argument, or argue our point of views, but we're basically having two different conversations.
Yep.
Let's see if they can reach the common ground of at least talking about the same things.
Yeah. Well, one thing again, I think it's a great discussion, and I think you're on point on this one. But one thing
I'm on point. The other ones I wasn't.
The whole point so far.
Right. I'm just kidding.
Don't try to do me. Don't try to do me like I did you last week. I don't use they, so I don't use they that often. I'm very conscious about how I use words.
Right.
But one thing I think is remarkable. It's very good how this discussion is going so far, because they are asking questions and they are answering questions. It's not about trying to. He's not trying to say, "Oh, you think totally differently. Get off my show." I'm not. You disagree with this idea? It's preposterous that you're thinking this way. It's just asking questions and try to find what are we actually arguing about.
Yeah.
And trying to find. It doesn't have to be a solution, but there has to be understanding. And I think the difference in what they both are talking about is going to make it hard or maybe easier. We'll look at it later in the video. But those things, those discussions will trigger new ideas or kill ideas that don't make any sense. But yeah, let's continue.
In any way, it just opens up the possibility that people who are gay won't be discriminated against.
Yeah, I don't think that a gay couple existing directly impacts. There's a gay couple and wherever, and I'm with my wife in our house. Like obviously,
Right.
there's not. But I'm not talking about on the individual level. I'm talking about on the societal level.
Right.
I would agree that divorce, especially this no fault divorce, rampant divorce. I don't think it's as high as 50%. I know that's often quoted. I'm not sure where that comes from, but it is high. It's too high. And
Chris Rock has a great joke about that. He said those are just the people with the courage to get out. It's like how many cowards stay.
But it's also true that the advocates for what we call now traditional marriage, which I just call marriage, but the advocates for traditional marriage put themselves at a disadvantage by especially in the churches, like allowing this rampant divorce to occur. And then you've already sort of given up on some marriage is supposed to be monogamous and permanent as well as procreative. Well, you've given up monogamy and permanence. And so now it's not, that's two of the three legs gone. And so now this assault was waged on the procreative part of it. And it was difficult to withstand it because the institution had already been weakened. So I agree with you there. But my answer to that is to try to reinforce what marriage is, not to just give up on it entirely. And I still think you're left with this question of like, if marriage is not what I'm saying it is, then why do we even need it? What's the point? I mean, you're saying it's a man-made institution.
Yes.
But you're also like the way that you're presenting it. It's a totally meaningless institution. So
No,
they don't need it at all.
No, it's not meaningless. It's because it means something to the people that get married.
So it's just a subjective, symbolic thing. I mean, what?
Yeah.
So if you're
kind of what it is, look, there's a massive responsibility when you're married and when you have children to keep your family together and you raise and keep everybody happy and healthy. And there's great reward to that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work out. It's people change. People are fucked up. It doesn't always work. And so I don't think it should be outlawed because 50% of the people fall apart. Just like I don't think it has any effect whatsoever on a straight couple if a gay couple decides that they want to make it official. And that's what it is to them. It gives them a feeling that they're accepted and appreciated and that they're not discriminated against because they happen to be homosexual.
So what you're articulating to me is the damage that's done by gay marriage to the institution of marriage.
But how is it done? How is that in any way damaged straight people?
Because we are making the institution meaningless.
But it's not meaningless.
Well, but
it's very meaningful to the people that have it.
Subjective, symbolic, and it.
So they appeared to reach common ground because they started to talk about the same thing when he asked Joe he said if we're going to deviate from the original meaning of marriage, then what's the point of then there's no point to having marriage. Insinuating that there's an original meaning of or an original definition of marriage that everyone approved of. And Joe Rogan said yes. His answer was yes, there is meaning. And then he went to the subjective side again. And he said, well, if it's for a gay couple, it might be something else. If the gay couple thinks, so if for the gay couple it's A, it doesn't affect the fact that you think it's B in your marriage. And perhaps another person will think it's C in their marriage. But then what Matt, right? What Matt does is he goes back to the institution of marriage. So although they don't say it explicitly, the main point that they're arguing right now is whether or not marriage is an objective concept, it's an objective institution, or whether it's a subjective concept that can differ for everyone. Let's see if they are going to talk about that. Or maybe they're already talking about it, not explicitly, but let's see if they can at least discover that that's what they're arguing about.
Agree with you on that.
We are making the institution meaningless.
But it's not meaningless.
Well, but
it's very meaningful to the people that have it.
Subjective, symbolic, and it's about your own personal feelings.
Isn't it though?
Well, no, I would say that it's not. It's
well, if it's not subjective and it's not symbolic,
Yep. They reached it. They talked about it. Maybe you can play it back again where you started. But they started with, they asked the crucial question. So it seems like they are going in the direction of discussing whether it's subjective or objective.
Isn't it though? People that have it.
Subjective, symbolic, institution, meaningless.
But it's not meaningless.
Well, but
it's very meaningful to the people that have it.
Subjective, symbolic, and it's about your own personal feelings.
Isn't it though?
Well, no, I would say that it's not. It's
well, if it's not subjective and it's not symbolic,
it codifies and protects and gives a name to a thing that actually exists, which are man, woman couples creating people, creating babies,
but not always.
Right, but that's still the nature of the union. So,
but what are the percentage of people today that are married that don't have children? I bet it's pretty high amongst heterosexuals.
Probably.
Is there something wrong with that?
I think there is something wrong with that. I think there is something wrong with getting married and saying, oh, we're not gonna have any kids at all.
But why is there something wrong with that? If someone's personal choice, why is it wrong that two people are like, I am deeply committed to work and I don't want to sacrifice any of my career and I don't want to ruin a kid because I'm constantly at the office, but that's where I get deep satisfaction and that's what I'm focused on. And the woman says, that's great because I don't want children either. I really am attached to my interests and my career and what I like to do. That's not damaging your relationship with your wife and your family. I certainly don't think of it as a threat to my marriage or my family.
Yeah, it is a personal choice.
Right, but shouldn't people be allowed to make those personal choices? Like, isn't that a fundamental aspect of what it means to be American, to have that freedom?
Well, right, yeah, but right now we're not talking about what people are allowed to do. I'm not saying
we're talking about marriage, gay marriage.
Okay, we were just discussing straight couples who choose not to have kids.
That's also a personal freedom issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that straight couples should be legally required to have kids, but I if you're asking me, do I think it's the right choice to just get married and choose not to have kids ever? I do not think that that's the right choice. It's their choice, but people can make choices that are wrong, and you can disagree.
How is it wrong if they have a fulfilling and wonderful life together with that choice? If their thing is that they just want to have a bond between the two of them to just like take it to the next level, let everybody know like we are married. If I die, my money's going to go to Helen. And if Helen dies, I'm going to mourn her because she was my wife and now I'll be a widower. Like to some people, that distinction gives them peace and security and makes them feel better about the relationship, that they're both so committed that they've legally signed documents that say that they're bound by law and under the eyes of God or whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add about this part?
No, I think they've reached common ground, or at least they're discussing the same things right now. And it's just whether or not, now it's just a matter of convincing. Shall I say convincing? So they're argumenting. Maybe they're not trying to convince each other, or at least the end goal is not to convince each other. But at least they know what they're talking about right now. Is it a subjective something or an objective something?
Yep.
Yeah.
They're able to make that choice, but I think you're still rejecting one of the purposes of marriage. And in the scenario that you just outlined, you're also deciding to live a really self-centered life. You're saying,
but what if you're not? What if your work is very charitable? What if it benefits humanity in a deep way? What if you spend a lot of time doing, healthcare work and, social work, and you're deeply committed to your community? It's not selfish at all. You're just dedicating your time to something other than raising new human beings. But you're dedicating your life to enhancing other human beings that are around you.
That's a hypothetical.
It is a hypothetical, but so is yours, right?
Yeah, but I think most of the people that choose, like, we're not going to have kids, and the rate of those rates are declining, and the age when people first have kids is also going up, and all that.
Yeah.
And most of the people that are making these choices, I don't think it's because.
By the way, did you see the cigar smoke?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to add that to our show. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. The only thing is I can't, because it's like blowing it in his face, right? But
maybe the distance between each other. I can't remember how far they are from each other. I think it's but it's not really in his face.
No,
right?
no, it's not in his face. I'm just joking. But
it's just I think the angle, but
yeah, and I think it's something that you would talk about, or I imagine that you would talk about it before the show, right? Either as a permission, do you mind if I smoke? Or as a, maybe not a permission, but perhaps as a FYI, by the way, I smoke. So
yeah. But Matt also has a cigar, so
yeah, I haven't seen it.
And you didn't see it? He's waving it around the whole time.
No.
Anyway, but the regarding the argument itself, it seems like they are finding some kind of I won't say common ground, but it's kind of settled now.
Yeah, it's settled. Yeah. Now it's just a question of, and that's iron sharpening iron. It's I believe this, you believe that. We're gonna talk about it. I'm going to listen to see what you have to say, and perhaps you can convince me. Perhaps I can't convince you, but perhaps I can't. And it is what it is.
Let's continue.
Because they're involved in charity work, I do think that it is more the scenario you outlined in the first time around, which is just like, well, this is what I'm doing. I have my job. I don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
Because
but don't you think that people should have the freedom to live their life in that way? I think human beings vary widely in a huge way. And I think there's some human beings that find a very fulfilling life just reading books and traveling and experiencing different things and seeing art and doing whatever the fuck they want to do. And they don't necessarily have to have kids to live a fulfilling life that way. And if they choose to do that with someone who they have a loving bond with and who they get married to, I don't think it's a bad thing that they don't want to have kids.
Well, I guess we have to, maybe we're running into a question of, now you get to the real fundamental question.
I think it's a fundamental freedom thing.
Yeah, we're not disagreeing, I guess, on the freedom aspect of it, because again, I'm not saying that you should be required to have kids.
But you're imposing your sensibilities and what you think is important in life to other people. But everybody has a different idea of what's important in life without hurting anyone. The thing is, like, what I'm saying is these people that are married, that don't have children, they're not harming anyone. They're not harming these unborn children that they never have. They're not harming anyone. And it doesn't affect your relationship with your family and your marriage at all.
Yeah, but I'm not imposing myself on them or harming them by answering a question about about
Right.
how I feel about their choices.
Right, but nor are gay people doing that to you.
I think the harm comes from, on a societal level, when we start breaking down these basic central institutions like the institution of the family and of marriage. That's where the harm comes from. And the more that people believe, the more that we build a society where it's believed that marriage is objectively meaningless, right? It's entirely subjective. It's just about making you feel better. The more that we build a society like that, I think that's where the harm comes in. The worse it is, and people are going to reject marriage, and that means more, fewer kids are being born. Also, more kids are being born in a context where they don't have that stable family structure. So the harm definitely comes. It may not be this immediate, connect the dots thing, but and we can already see that.
Yes. So in conclusion, doesn't seem like they haven't reached an agreement. So they still believe what they believe. Perhaps, we don't know, perhaps they do think a bit differently about the subject. I know that Matt Walsh has he has posted a reaction video to that interview as well. So guys, perhaps might be a good idea to check it out to see what he thinks of the argument himself. Because perhaps, as an outsider, when you're looking as a spectator at the argument, perhaps you will find moments where you think, he's right, or no, he's really wrong. But at least what's pretty impressive is the way they conducted the discussion in a very civilized manner.
Yeah, civilized manner. I think one thing I want to point out at the end, it seemed like he went to the subjective side and argued against the subjective side. So at the end, they kind of started talking about the same things. He said, if it's subjective, then these are the consequences, which breaks down the objective part, the overreaching part. So
yeah, but that's always that's always the risk, right? So so when you have a court case, I'll just give you a quick tip for when you find yourself in court.
Okay.
Well, and there are some proceedings where you can represent yourself. I wouldn't do it, but
the basis.
Yeah, but basically, what you learn, or the main thing you have to keep in mind, is you tell your story. This is not what I'm saying right now is not relevant to a discussion. It's relevant to perhaps a debate or a court proceed if you're in a court case. In the discussion, you try to understand each other. In a debate, if it's a debate, then then your goal is to out-argue the other party. But if you're if you're in a debate or in court, you only tell your story and you stick to your story. And you let the other party tell his story. And let the judge determine who did it better.
Or the jury.
If you say what Matt said, if you say, well, if it is subjective, then you basically accepted
their reality.
And now you're fighting in your reality. And if you don't watch out, you'll be fighting an uphill battle. But it's just a tip. Not in discussions, guys. In discussions, we promote healthy discussions. We promote an open mind, trying to understand people. This is just, if you're arguing in a debate, then that would be the advice that I would give. And you will only, well, there's an asterisk there too. You will only go there if you're sure you're gonna win, but it's a big risk.
You mean to their spot.
side? You
Okay,
will only argue. You can only say, well, even if that's the case, you only go that route if you are 100% sure that you're safe.
Yeah, I do agree with you.
Slippery slope, because once you're in their reality, I mean, they've prepared for that reality. So then you'll be fighting, you'll be arguing in their.
That's why it's also always important to understand both sides of the argument, because then you know the flaws in their thinking, and then you can enter their reality and be like, okay, I'm gonna go according to your flow, but then this will happen.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you on that. And maybe guys, put in the comments if you want maybe a weekly tip from RJ. This is something out of the topics we discussed. Maybe he can tie it into a tip, a small thing that you can use. Because I think someone like Daryl Brooks
could have used
someone like that he could have used. Could have used.
Do you remember the? I think you sent it to me. There was a guy who was involved in a court case, and when he went to court, when he was in front of the judge, he started singing. You remember that?
Oh yeah. Yes, he was in yellow. He was in yellow, I think. He started singing to the judge like
his own song.
Yeah, his own song. I think he wrote it before the show or before the show.
It was a show.
Before the it was a show, yeah.
It was
before
a show.
The trial. I think he probably might have, maybe it was a freestyle. He started singing like, please let me go. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think I sent it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy, but I think that's a great tip, by the way. I think if you think about it, a lot of people find themselves in arguments or discussions, healthy discussions, and they sometimes if you look so that's one thing. If you're a third person looking at a discussion, you will see the flaws in each argument. Sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't see it.
If you have an open mind.
And you the only way you can see it is if you know the argument, the counter argument to your argument. So that's one thing also to stimulate yourself to, if you have an idea or if you have something you want to stand by, you have to try to figure out the counter arguments of your point, so that when people try to counter argue you have a counter argument, then you can say, okay, they are saying this, I've thought about this already, and then this is the flaw in that thinking. As a third person, you see the flaw right away. And I forgot where I was going, but basically, what was I forgot what I was going to say.
Start talking about. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think I was going to make a great point, but
I think so too, man, because you were on a roll.
I went left and then I totally forgot to come back.
Yeah, I do that too often.
Yeah, but I think it's a very good thing you said. Very great tip. Also regarding in court cases, tell your story and stick to it, and you might end up at the other side like OJ.
Yo, the the thoughts and opinions of KaiR do not reflect the opinion of this show.
Hey, in the court case, it was proven he was not guilty. So You can say how much you want that you don't, that I don't reflect.
No. You didn't
What did
word
I-
it correctly.
What did I?
It was proven, it was not proven that he is guilty.
Okay, you're right on that one. It was
He
proven
was-
that he was not guilty.
No,
So
it
what?
wasn't proven. It wasn't proven that he's guilty. It wasn't proven that he's innocent. It was not proven that he's guilty. They couldn't prove that he's guilty. That doesn't
What
mean
RJ
that he's guilty.
What RJ said. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Guys, have a lawyer on your side when you need it, so you don't get canceled. Have a lawyer on retainer. I should get a fee from lawyers. I'm giving guys advice these days. Get a lawyer on your retainer or as a show host. Then when you say something crazy, he will straighten it out.
Yeah. Not all people have lawyers on retainers.
Yeah.
So some people have other people on retainers. So
Anyway, let's close this part. I think in general, it was a very healthy discussion. Do you think that? And I'm transitioning now to the questions we always ask during these shows. Do you think that this is because the main question is Joe critiquing ideas correct in the correct way? Do you think that based on what we saw in the pre-part regarding cancel culture, do you think he's critiquing ideas and speech in the right way, correctly?
So I don't know what the quote unquote correct way is, but I do think that he's doing it in a very healthy and productive way.
Okay.
If the goal is to understand, then the answer is yes. Or at least he used healthy discussion techniques. I think that he also left room, despite the fact that his questions were pretty direct. He did although it seemed like he did make sure that Matt Walsh was still comfortable. It didn't seem like Matt Walsh thought that he was being attacked. He was perhaps being questioned, but not being attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very important in controversial discussions. And it unfortunately is something that's missing too much in the way we discuss things presently. Because if he had attacked Matt Walsh's point of view, Matt probably would have been forced to play defense. And then you're not discussing, you might find yourself in an argument. And it's a very thin line, because it's not only Joe Rogan that needs to have the skills to conduce a healthy conversation, but it's also Matt Walsh who needs to be open for critique and who needs to understand that the critique of Joe Rogan and the questions of Joe Rogan is not directed to him personally, but it's directed to the topic at hand. And if you're, and a lot of people cannot separate the two from each other. KR, when I was, I'll just get a short story. When I was younger, or a child, I did not understand when people said, it's not personal, but I have to fire you. I'm like, whoa, it's not personal, but you have to fire me.
You are a child worker? You was working as a child?
No, I should have given more context, perhaps. My grandfather was a business owner, and
okay.
And I
you
was
helping, giving a help.
No, I wasn't. No. Of course not. I was
putting shoes together.
No, but it's like it's conversation. I might have heard him.
Okay, like that.
Yeah, I might have heard him talking with people and making those type of remarks, and I was like, hey, but if you're going to fire someone, how can it not be personal? But the more you grow up, the more you understand that in business you have to make business decisions, and sometimes that means that someone needs to go. You need to let someone go because that person is not contributing, and you might really like that person's personality, his sense of humor, everything. He's a good colleague, but if it's not right for the business, then you need to make a business decision, because if you don't, the company might suffer, and you might find yourself having to fire 2 people or 4 people. So I say that to reiterate that because Matt Walsh seemingly had discussion skills, he did not take the questioning of Joe Rogan, let's say, personally. And as long as you can stay on topic, you can have a good and healthy conversation, even when the topic is controversial.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point you made regarding taking critique or questions about your idea, because a lot of people a lot of times are married to their idea, so kind of a part of themselves, and when you critiquing that idea, you basically critique their values, or that's how they see it a lot of times, and then they, like you said, they go into defense, and it's from that point it's a slippery slope. When people get into defense, it's the end of the discussion, then it's going to be war. And I think that's also indeed a great point you made, is that both of them were skilled enough to understand what they are doing, and also open to the critiques, and still having a healthy discussion. I think that's also part of the skill set of Matt. He has his own podcast, he has his own show, is a well-seasoned broadcaster, so he understands this aspect of the, let's call it, the game, or the creation of a show as well. But that's something regular people can learn as well. Like, if someone is critiquing whatever you're doing, and unless it's a ad hominem, sometimes it's not even about you as a person, it's about the idea. It just maybe you have never thought of it, but your idea might suck. No one has your group of friends didn't tell you that, because their ideas suck as well, and they think you're the genius one, but maybe you're just average. No one has told you yet. I sound like Kevin Samuels for a second right there. You're average.
Average at best.
You're average at best.
Average at
this
best.
is to everyone. Maybe your ideas are just average at best, and you haven't tested them. No peer review. No one has tested that. You went to the woods and never went test your pew pew.
Yeah.
To see how sharp your ideas is actually. You come out here with the wolves, get questioned, and then suddenly you take it personal because Anyway, try to learn from this, guys. Try to learn from this.
And that's why you have to watch out when you're going to debate people like Joe Rogan, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro. These are people who are continuously involved in complex discussions.
Yeah.
So they have the skills necessary, which is possible to break it down. And you can also, let's take Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan seemingly has people from different spectrums in his show. They can be right, they can be left, it can be men, it could be women. So many different types of people. So it's very unlikely that you will come, let's say, in an argument regarding a controversial topic, that you will come with that you can take him off guard. I mean, you can have one good idea that he might not have thought of, but you can't. It's not if you come with, like, say, the we all know the topics that spark endless, the endless debates.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that because Joe Rogan has had people from different parts of the society on his podcast, he is able to adjust and conduct himself the way he's supposed to in any type of situations. Whereas someone who, for example, who's either right and let's say a right winger who only has people from the right on his show, or a left winger, or who only has people from the left on his show, you're just creating an echo chamber. So you're not developing the quality of your
arguments and your ideas.
Yes.
So, guys, I think we had this was a pretty good show. Kind of it's like a continuous. So the last show we talked about prenups. Now we talked about marriage. Well, not directly marriage, but the discussion about a marriage or the interpretation of marriage. Let us know in the comments what else you guys want us to talk about. Give us some ideas, some things you might have seen. So we can also dive in, and you can call in, give your opinion. We always share the link in the chat, so you can join whenever you want to, and we can have a healthy discussion.
Yeah.
Just like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, I think is it are you going to try to set me up today, or is it
I never try to set you up. You're my brother, man. I never try to set you up.
You're my brother.
But I do have a scenario for you.
Okay. I'm wary these days because I tried to set you up last week, so I gotta keep my guard up,
Yeah. But the difference is, you knew that the setup section would come at the end of the show. You try to set me up mid-show, man. I'll play it one more time at the end, because I think it's so funny. I find it so funny. But yeah, I have a scenario. It's not that. So usually, KR, I take my time building a good scenario. But today I have, it's just a simple question.
Yeah. Tell me.
Would you apologize for a statement you firmly believe in, if you risk losing everything if you don't do it. We talked about last week. I gave my random thought of the day about Kyrie. The previous show we talked about Kanye. But the question to you is today, because it's about freedom of speech, freedom of thought. Today, at least, we talked about the importance of having good conversation, open conversation. So you find yourself making a statement that you truly believe in, but without knowing, you step on someone's toes, someone with a lot of power and influence, but you firmly believe in your statement. And if you don't retract your statement, you will lose your job, if you have a job, or you will lose all your clients. If you have clients, you will lose endorsements if you have endorsements. So you will
basically end up on the streets.
You end up on the streets. Would you do it?
Would I do it? And I'll give you the simple question, because this is a hypothetical. It's a simple, depends on the situation.
Okay.
It really depends. It depends on a lot of variables. I'm not gonna name all of them because I don't know who's watching these videos. Might be plotting on me. You always think ahead. I'm not gonna give these variables because I'm not gonna give the blueprint to set me up.
Yeah.
But it depends on a lot of variables. You have to always keep the variables in mind. One thing you have to always protect. I'm not gonna. So that's my answer. But I think one thing I want to say in addition to that answer is you have to always keep in mind when you're saying something, how it's perceived by others. And if even if you believe that your statement is true and you know it's true, like I said at the beginning of the show, there is something you always have the freedom of speech, but there is no such thing as a freedom of consequences.
Freedom from consequences.
So the consequences, you might be right, you might be really right, but how that's perceived, it can be taken out of context, or people what you say. And I think we saw that also with one partially with Andrew Tate, where his statements get clipped into parts that basically removes it from the context, and then you get basically pinned into a role that's maybe not something you actually aspire to be. So you have to be always very meticulous, is the right word, about what you're saying and how it's perceived, and to avoid these situations. And like I said, there are some variables that I would take into account in that situation. You always have to protect yourself at all times, in the boxing ring, but also outside. No, have a plan. Let's put it this way. Like I said, the Bill Belichick of the YouTube game. I'm gonna claim that moniker, man. I'm gonna claim it. At a certain point, people will call me that. You have to keep that in mind. Variables and avoid. Think ahead of the game. It's a very boring answer, to be honest. It's a boring.
No, but basically, what it is boring.
Yeah, it is boring.
I'm just kidding, man. No, it was a straightforward question, but I think what you're saying is, and it's basically a choice you have to make at a particular point in time. Do you protect your breath? Are you playing the long game or the short game?
Yeah.
Because I think that if you do apologize for something you actually believe in, you can apologize. But what will you do next?
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, so what will be very evident at that moment is that you're
fault at any price.
No, but also that you're very dependent on other people.
Yeah.
So maybe you would try to look for ways to have FU money, to start trying to be more independent, so that if something goes down, you can actually say to the people, thank you, for the opportunity to apologize. But
yeah, you have to be wary also who you don't apologize to, because they might put you on a list. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So be very. So I think what RJ is saying, I took the long route to say it. Just make sure you have indeed a way to back up to avoid this. Well, to back up if you find yourself this situation. What I'm trying to say is as well, try to avoid getting even in that situation.
Yeah, in the first place. Yeah.
In the first place, because the best way to prevent, I think what is the best solution? How would you say it?
The best solution is don't tweet.
The best solution is to prevent. I think that's your.
Prevention is better than cure.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yes. I'll try to find your statement. You always use that.
But I like the tweet quote better.
The tweet. Don't
so
tweet.
Guys, don't tweet. Don't tweet. Guys, we are almost at the end of the show. Thank you for everyone who stuck around. We greatly appreciate your support. I'm just gonna make a quick recap of today's show before we continue with KR's random thought of the day. Basically, we started the show with, or at least the main part of the show, with a video of an interview of JordanBPeterson, in which he described the phenomenon that is cancel culture. And he basically argued that what social media has done is it has given people platform to talk wild, to say whatever they want without consequences. He used the analogy of two men in discussions. Men know that when they're in discussions, they know that there is always the potential of violence if things go south. And that risk is what keeps people in check. It's just like, for example, if you know that another country has weapons, then you'll behave yourself. You might say you might not agree with them, but you'll watch out how you talk to them, because they might wake up crazy one day. And because trigger happy, and because social media does not have that, let's call it feedback loop.
It's a crazy. That's a great one, by the way. Oh my god, I never thought about it. There's no feedback loop.
There's no feedback loop. People can go all over the place, and they can also go as far as canceling you if they do not agree with you.
Yeah.
After that, we went to we analyzed the Joe Rogan interview with Matt Walsh, where we did basically a play-by-play. Well, it wasn't a play-by-play, but it did feel like that. Review of the conversation or the discussion on the definition of marriage. We saw that Joe Rogan was of the opinion that marriage is not something objective, it's something subjective. In other words, everyone has a different idea of what marriage is, and everyone gives it a different meaning, and that should be enough. So for one people, it might be an expression of love. For the other, it might be an expression of commitment. For the other, it might be a way to get a green card. But Matt Walsh was saying that he was talking about the institution of marriage. So marriage as an institution, it's something on its own, according to Matt Walsh. And he was arguing that one of the core pillars of marriage is to procreate. And it was a very interesting discussion to see take place. And you could see at the beginning how they were basically on opposite sides of the debate. At the end of the debate, they did not really agree with one another 100%, but you could see during the debate, there were times where they met each other halfway just to try to understand each other. But when they saw that, hey, I can follow you up to here, but I can't anymore,
I can't follow you because I'll get myself into a losing position.
Yeah. So then they stepped back. But what was very admirable of the whole discussion is the way they conducted it with an open mind, trying to understand each other. They were direct in their statements. They were very deliberate in the words they used, but never offensive. And I think it's something to keep in mind when you're having a discussion. First of all, I think the first thing you have to do is try to make sure that you're arguing about the same thing. So make sure, just avoid talking past each other. When you know that you're talking about the same thing, then you will just talk. You can discuss, and sometimes it can be a heated discussion, but the purpose should never be to convince someone, I believe. I mean, the purpose should always be to understand someone. I'm speaking as RJ, the co-host of Double Thought Show, not RJ, the lawyer. RJ, the lawyer.
Statement. I don't totally agree with that. I mean, ask questions. Ask questions. I think if you ask enough questions, the weaknesses. So I do agree with you. You shouldn't try to convince someone, but if you keep asking questions, the weaknesses will present themselves, which gives you the argument to put your part of the argument on a higher platform. Let's put it this way: you're not trying to convince them. You will end up being the one, if there are more parties watching, that will say, yes, that argument, that I do agree with, that's probably better than the other one.
Yeah. And just
to fight.
Exactly. So I just want to, before we go to the random thought of the day of KaiR, I just want to end this recap with a short analogy. I think it was Socrates who they told, many people approached him and said that he was the smartest person in Greece. And he said, no, I'm not the smartest person in Greece. They said, yes, definitely, you're the smartest person in Greece. So because so many people approached him, he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to test this hypothesis. So he talked to a mathematician. The mathematician explained to him how the world, how the world is built. Then he went to the astronomer, and the astronomer told him how the stars are and how everything was. And then he went to the doctor, and the doctor told him exactly how the world was. And then he went talked to all the smartest people in Greece. And when he returned, he said, "Guys, I think you were right. I am the smartest person in Greece." And they said, we told you. He said, "But it's not for the reasons you might think. The reason that I am the smartest person in Greece is because all the expert I talked to believed they know everything, and I'm the only one that knows that I know nothing." That's a good one. With that being said,
that's a good one, man. Just clip that out. That's a good one.
That's why I said it as well. So guys, now with that being said, KR, could you please entertain us with your random thought of the day?
Yeah, this is totally different to what we talked about this show. Not even remote link to it. It's inspired by a couple of articles I've seen this past week. And what I can say is this, guys. Be very careful of who you associate yourself with. By the way, it's not only, now I'm saying it, it's not only articles this week, it's past week as well, things that happened. You have to be very careful who you associate yourself with. You have to understand the people who you associate yourself with, what makes them tick, and what are their mental health situation, and what kind of situations they can pull you into. You might find yourself in a peculiar situation if you don't understand this part. Not gonna say with peculiar, I mean health-wise. With health-wise, I mean your life. I'm breaking it down for you. Maybe I should say it directly. I kept breaking it down too much. Your life.
Yeah.
Understand the people those people are also associated with. Because it's a life or death situation a lot of times. These people will pull you into things. You might be a good person. You might be a person of thought, care. You care for the people who are directly linked to you. Integrity. These people, these savages might not even care about that. They are just about the short-term gain. Sometimes there is not even a gain. That's the crazy part. There is sometimes not even gain by attempts on your life. Let's put it this way. And it's just for fun. And you're in that situation. You're trying to get yourself out of it. It's too late. And then you're gone. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
Association with the wrong people, and not understanding the situation you could get yourself into will change your life forever, and sometimes not in the good way. It could also be in the it could also be in a good way, but a lot of times what I'm trying to say right now, most important thing is that it cannot end. It probably sometimes will not end in a good way. That's all. I'm gonna keep it simple this week. It's not a funny thing. It's a shame that people sometimes lose their life over stupid things. And the articles I was reading was about a guy who was basically a psychiatrist who was almost at the end of his. I think he was already retired. Who was basically a sugar daddy to a, let's say, the magazine with the bunny ears.
Yeah.
A former model of that magazine. He was basically a sugar daddy to her. He went
Player.
to the player one. Yeah. He went there to the to end basically the sugar daddy relationship and ended up in a trunk. Yeah. And you can always be sad about the situation with Takeoff, man. It's sad. I mean, it's sad. It's
sad, yeah.
Just be very careful who you affiliate yourself with, and even if you're careful, be aware of situations they can get you in because of the people they are affiliated to. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Yes. That's all.
Thanks, KaiR. Thank you for your random thought of the day.
Yeah.
On that high note, thank you to the viewers who are watching us live, as well as everyone watching the rebroadcast. Whatever your thoughts are, please let us know in the comments below. Share the video with other people. Remember, it really helps us grow. We are seeing week in, week out improvement.
We are stabilizing on a good number.
Definitely. Well, it's good for us. Other people might delete themselves with our numbers.
We are on a come up, so maybe in a couple of months we might delete ourselves over these numbers. But guys, you are helping us a lot, and we are very thankful about you guys liking our videos and also sharing them. And continue, please.
Yeah, definitely. Remember, guys, press the like button. It really helps us with it. It really helps with the algorithm. It helps push our videos as well. Follow us on our social media pages, specifically Instagram and Facebook. You can follow us on Double Thought Show. The links are in the description box below. If you're not subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, please remember to do so. And on that note, thank you one more time. And until next time, guys, peace.
Peace.